Thank you. I think there's two important things facing our community in the next year or so. Number one, economic development. George Kullis spoke to this a little bit, where all local units of government, because of this recession, had to cut back and consolidate and merge their operations with other communities. The Village of Holly did it with their dispatching, saved a lot of money. And Oakland County has a great system, and we provide that service for a lot of communities. And if you want to create economic development, you have to cut the cost of doing business. They've done it on their level. Oakland County's done it. The state's done it. The state got rid of the personal property tax, which was a burden on small businesses. You pay tax on that desk you bought forever. They got rid of the small business tax, which was really a tax on your existence, which was an unfair tax. Roads, that's probably the second issue that's on everybody's mind. And the legislature will solve the problem in the next coming year. But if I had any say in it, we're one of the few states that collect a sales tax on gasoline sales. But that sales tax doesn't go to fix the roads. That sales tax goes into the general fund. They should take that sales tax money and use it to fix the roads. I mean, the state loves it every time the price of fuel goes up because they get a windfall because the sales tax is based on what you pay per gallon. Another thing I would advocate, and we do this now at the county, is we have a tri-party program where we ante up a third, the municipality antes up a third, and the road commission antes up a third. And you can save this money for a few years to do a bigger project in your community. But that's a great way to get more bang for the buck. Thank you.
Well, the number one issue that we're all going to go through is keeping people employed. In order to do that, we have to attract good paying jobs to the 51st district. How do you do that? Everyone here agrees. We have to fix our infrastructure. But we have to fix our infrastructure so it's fair. So we're not raising the gas tax. We're not putting a large burden on the middle class because we can't afford it. The second thing is the pension tax. When I'm your state representative, that is the first key thing that we have to get rid of. It's unfair tax on our seniors. It's unfair tax for, as I go around the district, people are sitting down at the table, their grandparents, and say, you know, we've been going over this and we've been able to help out Johnny's college tuition, but now I can't. You made a promise, we made a promise to the seniors, but we're not fulfilling it. And it's not a bipartisan, it is a bipartisan issue. Because if you don't believe in a tax, then stand up and say you don't believe in it, and make legislation to change that tax. We have to set priorities. The priorities for me, small business, middle class, the senior pension tax, and education.
The most important issue facing our community from a state perspective as state senator is, of course, the continuing growth of our economy, the creation of jobs, economic development, and hoping for trying to provide an atmosphere and an environment for people to be able to find work. I want to begin my conversation on the answer to this particular question by, first of all, thanking the Chamber of Commerce for the leadership that you're showing in the community and having this forum, and the leadership that you show every day here in the Holly community. I think it's extremely important that we take a moment to take a look at what actually has been accomplished in the last 4 years. I've been a state senator now for the first term, but I served 4 terms in the House of Representatives, going back some 25 years. I was first elected to the House in 1990, so I've been around a little longer than some folks. And I know that from my experience that this legislative session has been the most productive legislative session in my lifetime, or frankly any other legislator's lifetime, for our package you can measure when it comes to creating a proper environment for economic growth and job creation. Think about all the things that have been accomplished. We've balanced the budget every year for the last 4 years. We've balanced the budget early every year for the last 4 years, months ahead of schedule. We've put money into the rainy day fund, which has improved the state's bond rating and made public borrowing less costly for municipalities and for the state generally. We've eliminated, as Commissioner Hoffman mentioned, we've eliminated the Michigan business tax, which was the replacement of the single business tax, which goes back some decades, and was a particularly onerous tax. Why? Because it taxed mere business activity, regardless of whether or not we made a profit. The elimination of that MBT was crucial. Elimination of the surcharge that was put on top of the MBT was crucial. Elimination of the personal property tax, which was actually one of those occasions over the last 4 years where we've had bipartisan support and bipartisan cooperation. That took place on August 5th when Proposal 1 passed. I was a sponsor of one of the bills in that package of bills to eliminate the Michigan business tax and the MBT surcharge, and I was proud to do it. And, excuse me, the PPT, and of course I supported the elimination of the MBT and the MBT surcharge. These have been enormously productive times for the state of Michigan in terms of creating a better climate. We are beginning to see improvement in our economy. We've seen a growth of nearly 300,000 private sector jobs in the last 3.5 years. We are not anywhere where we need to be yet. Obviously, there's an enormous amount of work yet to do. But the decisions that we make in Lansing are crucial with regard to the climate that we create, and hopefully creating a climate for you as small business people, whether you be small, medium, or large businesses. We want to obviously see you succeed, see you be successful in creating a livelihood for yourselves, and a livelihood for the people that you employ. I want to take a moment to thank you for the work that the Chamber does and that the small business people do, because you employ and you provide livelihoods for my constituents who definitely need the work, and I want to do all that I can and continue to do all that I can to encourage growth in that sector. With regard to the local...
Mr. Robertson, that's over 2 minutes.
2 minutes?
That was it, yeah, that's over 2 minutes.
To be continued. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, let's bounce it back over and start with the village. Water bills, very hot topic in this community, as you all well know. I'd like to hear from each of you, starting with Mr. Kullis this time, what approach you would take to address our water bills currently and into the future. Thank you.
All right, thank you. The question is kind of, we're halfway there already in regards to the answer to that. And I say that because we've already been taking steps. And I mentioned it a moment ago about the master meter that's going into the mobile home parks up on the north end of town. To explain what that is to you, just briefly, the water that goes into those parks, there are individual meters on every trailer. The problem is the Village of Holly doesn't maintain the infrastructure within the trailer park. That belongs to some communities. Now, in the village, if we have a water leak down the street or somewhere, we stop, we fix it. Out there, that isn't the case. So whatever water goes into that park, we only get paid for what passes through the meter and goes into the person's home. With the master meter, we're going to get paid now for every gallon of water that goes into that park. There's an estimated 15 to 30% loss of water in that area alone. The other thing that's going to save us money is there's going to be one bill sent to the management. They will pay the bill. It's their job to bill the 420 residents in there. So we're going to save administrative hours, we're going to save mailing hours, not to mention cost of postcards, so on and so forth. That's the kind of thing we've been doing to shore up what we can with the water bill. Again, the water bill is a situation where we spend a bond money to improve a system, and we're using it at about 65% capacity right now. We need those other homes to come into the community, and that's why we put our emphasis on things, as Mr. Rankin mentioned, like the parks, to start beautifying up the community, to start making our streets look better, our parks look better, make this a more inviting area to come into. Thank you.
Thank you.
There's two parts to the water bill. One is the consumption. So we can lower our usage, but that won't lower our bills enough. The other part is the capital charge, which is the flat rate. The only way we can lower that part is if more people move into our community, we can divide it among more people, more households. So if we can make our village more attractive, more inviting, more welcoming to come in, have more people to split the bill with, it'll lower our rates.
I think on this one, going in the middle might be a disadvantage because we've already had most of the solutions proposed. The The water bill situation, capacity is obviously one of the biggest factors. We're several hundred houses under capacity, what we expected when the system was put in. Obviously that means that several hundred people aren't sharing in the original costs. Looking at things like the infrastructure and more importantly the overall system and the efficiency of the system from a business perspective and for an operational perspective. Master meters in the mobile home parks. Looking at our billing, we recently went to online billing, which can save administrative and overhead costs. All of these things contribute. Unfortunately, there's no silver bullet. It's something that to tell the truth, I pay the water bill just the same as everybody else sitting at this table, everybody else that lives in the village too. I don't like getting the postcard and seeing the number on it either, and that's one of the reasons we're here is to find the solutions. As I said when I ran for council in 2012, the real solution is finding the root causes, which like I said was being under capacity and finding more efficiencies in the system. Quality of life is a big thing that attracts people to the community, but also looking at very indirect ways, such as working with the schools, because the quality of schools is a major attractor of people to the community. Working with our neighboring municipalities. We currently have numerous township residents that are water customers of the Village of Holly. In my view, there's no reason that we couldn't also extend that service in a prudent and financially responsible way as well. That would increase usage on the system because it's a commodity and their customers are just the same. So I hate to say it, that it's a process that requires patience, but it's something that we're working on little by little, whether it's refinancing bonds or working to make our community more attractive.
In the past few council meetings that I've been at, the council currently gave out raises to almost every single person in the village, whether it's fire, police, DPW, and so on. And I'm not saying that they don't deserve raises, but not one time did I hear a meeting that while the residents are still footing the bill for our past mistakes, that wasn't taken into consideration. So it should always be back in the back of the council's minds. Capital improvements, all raises should be taken into consideration that we are paying the residents, past penance for the previous councils in that. I saw a few things in the budgets that I would like to question and wonder if it's possible to pay off the bonds early. Currently, we're not intended to pay those off until 2026. I do know that there are different types of bonds, and so to do some research on those, but I do know that municipalities can pay them off early. I would like to propose certain things that we would be able to save in certain areas and maybe hopes to defer that money and hopefully pay those off early. I do know some friends that have not moved into the village specifically because of the water bill, where they're paying the same amount they would pay monthly in a quarterly bill where they're at currently. I think that's a serious issue for our little town.
Going in the middle was hard. I think most of the proposed ideas are what we're working on, and as a council, we're already working on ways to reduce the water bills. We refinanced one of our bonds a couple of years ago. We're currently in the process of refinancing another one. And the refinancing, the monies that we save from the refinancing will offset or actually stave off the increases that have been built into the bond payments. And then in the not too distant future, we'll be paying off one of the bonds. I don't remember exactly the timeline, but when those bonds start getting paid off, and they don't happen all at once, they do happen in sequence, we can start looking at actual reductions to the base payment instead of simply holding off the increases. Thank you.
Would any of you folks care to comment on this? Going once, going twice? Yes.